You spend weeks preparing your kids for the world, but you can never fully prepare the world for your kids. My name is Marcus Johnson, and that lesson was carved into me on a perfect Halloween night. Not by a ghost or a goblin, but by the flicker of a blue and red police light. My son, Jordan, is 10. To him, Halloween is a sacred holiday, second only to Christmas. This year, he was determined to be more than just a superhero. He wanted to be a legend. After a school unit on ancient warriors, he settled on a Spartan hoplite. We worked for a month. We crafted a helmet from foam, a shield from plywood painted bronze and red, and a blunt-tipped spear from a broomstick. He looked incredible, powerful, proud. My wife, Lena, and I smiled as we watched him practice his stern, warrior-like walk in our living room. Our 6-year-old daughter, Maya, was a glittery butterfly, buzzing with excitement. "Remember the rules, buddy," I said, kneeling to adjust his helmet. "Stay with the group, say thank you, and no running into the street." "I know, Dad," he said, his voice muffled and serious beneath the helmet. A Spartan is disciplined. The air in our suburban neighborhood, Oakridge Estates, was crisp and smelled of wood smoke and candy. The streets were a tapestry of laughter and shrieks. Princesses and pirates, witches and zombies, all mingling in a chaotic, joyful parade. We joined the stream of families, Jordan marching authoritatively, Maya's small hand clutching mine. For the first hour, it was perfect. We chatted with neighbors. They complimented Jordan's detailed costume. "Wow, a Spartan. Look at that shield." He'd beam, his chest puffing out. We turned onto Maple Drive, a street with larger, more widely spaced homes. We were about halfway down the block when a porch light ahead of us winked off. Then another, and another. It was like a wave of darkness rolling towards us. Doors closed, not with a slam, but with a firm, definitive click. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. Lena moved closer to me, her hand finding the small of my back. "Marcus," she whispered. Before I could answer, a white SUV pulled up to the curb just ahead of us. The doors opened, and 2 police officers got out. One was a veteran, his face a mask of weary authority. The other was younger, his hand resting nervously on his belt. The veteran, Officer Briggs, shone his flashlight over our group. The beam lingered on me, then on Lena, before landing on Jordan. "Evening," Briggs said, his tone flat. "We got a call about a group of individuals with weapons, described as wearing dark clothing and being intimidating." The word hung in the air, heavy and familiar. Intimidating. I felt the joy of the night drain away, replaced by the old, cold fear. The talk I'd had with Jordan just last year flashed in my mind. Asterisk, keep your hands visible. Be extra polite. You can't afford to be a kid who makes a mistake. Asterisk. Weapons. Lena said, her voice tight. "Officer, it's Halloween. They're costumes." The younger officer, whose name tag read Davies, gestured with his chin toward Jordan. "That spear looks pretty real from a distance, ma'am." Jordan had frozen. His proud, warrior stance had collapsed. He was just a scared little boy hiding behind a plywood shield. "It's a broomstick," I said, my voice carefully, painfully calm. I could feel my heart hammering against my ribs. We sawed the end off and painted it. The shield is plywood. He's a Spartan warrior for Halloween. "A what?" Officer Briggs asked, his flashlight beam fixed on Jordan's face. "A Spartan," Jordan whispered, his voice small and trembling. "He's 10 years old," Lena added, her arm wrapping around Maya, who was now hiding behind her legs. Officer Davies took a step forward. "Son, why don't you put the spear down on the ground for me, all right?" "No," I said, the word coming out sharper than I intended. Both officers stiffened. "He doesn't need to do that. We are a family trick-or-treating. This is my son. That is his costume. You have no reason to disarm him." The standoff lasted only 10 seconds, but felt like an hour. The street was silent now. The other families had stopped to watch. I saw the curtains in the darkened houses twitch. Officer Briggs finally lowered his flashlight. "We're just responding to a call, sir. We have to check it out. You understand?" "I understand perfectly," I said, the ice in my voice betraying the fire in my veins. Someone saw a black boy in a costume with a toy spear and called the police. They didn't see a Spartan. They didn't see a child. They saw a threat. I looked at Jordan. Tears were cutting clean paths through the black face paint we'd carefully applied under his helmet. His dream night was ruined. The pride we built shattered by a single 911 call. We were allowed to leave. No apology, just a terse, "You have a good night now." We walked back to our house in silence. The magic was gone. Maya, sensing the shift, started to cry. Jordan was catatonic, dragging his magnificent spear on the ground behind him. Back inside, the vibrant costumes felt like cruel jokes. Jordan ripped off his helmet and threw it on the floor. "I hate my costume," he screamed, his small body trembling with rage he didn't know how to process. "I'm never wearing it again. I just wanted to be a Spartan." He ran upstairs and slammed his bedroom door. The sound was a gunshot in the quiet house. Lena held a sobbing Maya. Her eyes met mine, filled with shared, familiar grief. "What do we do, Marcus? How do we fix this?" I looked at the discarded helmet on the floor. I looked at the pile of candy, now tasting like ash. The anger, cold before, was now a white-hot forge in my chest. We couldn't fix it for Jordan. Not really. The innocence was gone. But we could forge that pain into something else. "We don't fix it," I said, my voice low. "We expose it." The next morning, I went to the Oakridge Estates community Facebook page. It was filled with the usual photos. Smiling kids, cute costumes. The narrative was one of idyllic, suburban harmony. It was a lie, and I was to tear a hole in it. I didn't write an angry rant. I wrote a story. I posted a photo of Jordan from just an hour before the incident, standing tall and proud in his full regalia. Then I narrated what happened. I described his excitement, the crafted details of his costume, the wave of darkening houses, and the arrival of the police. I quoted the officer's words verbatim. I described the sound of my son's tears and the shattering of his pride. I ended the post with a question. To the neighbor who called the police on my 10-year-old son, "What did you see when you looked out your window? Did you see a child or just a color?" Our family has lived in Oakridge for 8 years. When will we be considered neighbors and not suspects? I held my breath and hit post. The fallout was immediate and explosive. The post was shared hundreds of times within hours. Comments poured in, a tidal wave of support and ugly backlash. "This is disgusting. That poor boy. Why do people have to play the race card? The cops were just doing their job. If you don't want to be mistaken for a threat, maybe don't let your kid carry a weapon." But then something shifted. Other parents from Oakridge, white parents, started sharing their own photos. Their sons dressed as Vikings with plastic axes, as ninjas with plastic swords, as soldiers with toy rifles. The caption was always some version of, "My son trick-or-treated on Maple Drive 2. No one called the police on him. Can you spot the difference?" The side-by-side images were a devastating indictment. It was no longer my word against a vague fear. It was a visual, undeniable pattern of racial profiling. The local news picked up the story. The school principal called, offering support and asking if Jordan was okay. The mayor's office issued a bland statement about community harmony. But the most important response came a week later. An email from the Oakridge Community Association. They were holding an emergency town hall to discuss recent events and foster healing. They asked if I would be willing to speak. I said yes. The community center was packed. The air was thick with tension. Lena, Jordan, and I sat at the front. Jordan held a Spartan helmet in his lap, a silent, powerful prop. The association president gave a watery speech about being a welcoming community. Then it was my turn. I walked to the podium and placed Jordan's helmet on it. The red horsehair crest was a stark splash of color under the bright lights. "This is a helmet." I began, my voice echoing in the silent room. My son wore it because he wanted to feel powerful. For one night, he wanted to be a legendary warrior. And for a little while, he was... I looked out at the sea of faces. I saw our supporters. I saw the angry, crossed arms of our detractors. And I saw the uncertain people in the middle. Someone in this room, or watching from home, saw that helmet and didn't see history. They didn't see a child's imagination. They saw a threat. They saw my son's skin through his costume, and they were afraid. I picked up the helmet. The call to the police wasn't about a spear. It was about a story you told yourself. A story where a black boy in your neighborhood must be up to no good. A story that is older than this country. That story is a ghost that haunts us, and on Halloween, it decided to visit my family. I told them about Jordan's tears. I told them about the sound of the bedroom door slamming. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I testified. We are not asking for your pity. We are asking for your courage. The courage to question the stories you tell yourself. The courage to see my son for what he is. A bright, creative, kind-hearted boy who loves history and wanted to be a Spartan for Halloween. I looked directly at the section where I knew the most resistant neighbors sat. The problem isn't that my son wore a costume. The problem is that your fear is a costume he can never take off. I put the helmet down. The question for this community is simple. What kind of neighborhood do you want to be? One where a child's imagination is a cause for alarm, or one where it's a cause for celebration? The silence that followed was profound. Then a slow clap started from the back of the room. It was joined by another and another, until the room erupted in a standing ovation. Not everyone stood, but enough did. After the meeting, an older white woman I'd seen but never spoken to approached us. Her eyes were red-rimmed. "I live on Maple Drive," she said, her voice trembling. I was the one who called the police." She looked at Jordan, who was watching her, wide-eyed. I saw the spear from my window, and I panicked. I didn't see a little boy. I am so deeply sorry." Jordan looked from her tear-streaked face to mine. He didn't say anything. He just nodded, a single, solemn dip of his chin. It was a gesture of grace far beyond his 10 years. The healing didn't happen overnight, but it started. The community association, spurred by the incident, launched a Know Your Neighbor campaign and partnered with the police department for implicit bias training. A few weeks later, Jordan came to me. "Dad, can we put my Spartan costume in a shadow box so I can remember it?" "Of course, buddy," I said, my heart swelling. It was a great costume. "It wasn't just a costume," he said, with a wisdom that broke my heart, and put it back together again. "It was important." They profiled a Spartan hoplite, but in trying to make him feel small, they only showed him how powerful he truly was. The scar remains, but my son, my warrior, learned to wear it like armor. And sometimes, that's the only treat that matters. Like this powerful story? Subscribe for more social justice dramas that tackle real-world issues and inspire change. Hit the bell icon to never miss a video that matters. What would you do in this situation? Have you ever witnessed something similar? Share your experiences and thoughts in the comments below. We read every one.